The views and opinions expressed here are solely those of the guest and host, respectively, and not necessarily each other's. Welcome to AquaBrain. I am your Virgil Drew. On today's show, we're going to talk about the rave scene around the turn of the century. That's the 1990s to 2000s. My next guest was a DJ around that time. Welcome to the show, DJ Jonathan Thomas.
How you been, buddy?
Hey, how the hell are you, JT?
Beautiful, beautiful. Living in New England now, in New Hampshire.
All right. How is it out there?
Cold right now, actually.
Go figure. Wintertime, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting environment. It's sort of like the city I live in, or the town I live in, is sort of like that town your family's camp is in.
Okay.
You know, the town you go into when you got to pick up milk and eggs, and then you go back and sit by the lake and fish and stuff all day. I kind of live in that town.
That's cool though, man.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit out of the way. You get a little quiet out there, or what?
It's way out of the way. I kind of considered this after living in Seattle with you guys. I decided that chasing money on the level that I was living in big cities and all that was not conducive to my happiness.
Hey.
And so I decided I wanted to do a sort of working early retirement.
Okay,
so,
all right.
I moved out to Maine, and from Maine I moved to New Hampshire so I can live closer to Boston. Actually, that's why I live here. I still have to work, and I still have to go to big cities to work, but
yeah,
I get to leave the country. Every time I go anywhere, it's a drive through the country.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby, no sir.
Hey man, so you started DJing so this is all from the research I did online.
Okay.
But you started DJing in '94, I believe.
Yes, sir. My hometown in Syracuse, New York. Okay. Believe it or not, this is a little known. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but how the whole thing started was my buddy went to Chicago in the late '80s and came back with a tape of house music.
Okay, and all right, a tape.
He gave the tape to me. He said he called it French House, and the reason why he called it that, it was called house music, but it had some songs in French on it. Okay. So that was my introduction. And it took till about, I think this was like '87. It took about '93 until it hit the radio, hit upstate New York, where I am in Syracuse. And I was like, this is that music I remember from back in the day. And I asked a friend of mine, I was like, where can you hear this? Where can you go and hear this kind of music? I was like 18 at the time, maybe 19. And my buddy was like, go check out Sunday night. They do this techno at this club. And I walk into the place, and it was just a strobe light and a fog machine and blaring early '90s techno. And I swear to God, within a couple minutes, my heart started beating to the music. And it was within a few months, I was dancing at the club.
Okay, all right. You were in one of the cages on the side.
It's my family still at family gatherings will try to embarrass me in front of other cousins' wives and such, and bring up, John, remember when you were a cage dancer? And
were you doing
like a stripper? No, I was never a stripper. I was never actually dancing in cages. Maybe on podiums and such, but I matured out of that real fast. Within a couple of years, it got kind of old. In my early 20s, I kind of got bored of that, and I stepped away, got in a serious relationship, and stepped away from the club scene just to, be kind of normal. And I missed it so much. And in my time in the scene, all my friends at that time in the early '90s were either dancers or DJs or club promoters. Patrick Oot was one of my good friends, and he turned out to be one of the biggest upstate New York promoters, one of the biggest promoters in all of New York State, actually, at one time. And he was a kid I kind of knew and grew up with. He was the bottle boy at that club. And he saw me there dancing and was like, they're going to give me my own night. You should come in and dance for me. And that's how the whole thing started. And then he started promoting from that club night, started promoting raves and big events. And when I retired from dancing, I missed the music and missed everything so much. They were like, hey, JT, my friends were like, you should start DJing. Just go out and get it. And I didn't think it was possible, to get all the equipment and to learn and all that. But I got in a car accident when I was a little kid. And out of nowhere, this lawyer got a hold of me and was like, I have a settlement for you, $10,000. And I went right out after I got the money and yeah, I'm fine, DJ gear. And that was in 1994.
Wow,
So
I got $10,000 too once, and
did
I
you?
don't have anything to show for it, or
Because
even good stories.
well, I mean, that was probably the wisest and the dumbest thing I'd ever done. Buying $10,000 worth of crack cocaine probably would have led me nearly to the same fate
Oh,
because
geez.
I devoted 30 years of my life
Don't do that, kids.
to music and because of that, because of my dedication to that, I think I missed out on some of the things that a lot of regular people like, you yourself, you got married, you had kids,
I got a couple
happy,
of those.
proud dad, proud husband.
I Yes,
See,
100%.
I never got married, never had children, and that was one of the things, was kind of a trait. But again, have you ever performed in front of 10,000 people?
I've
You
not
know,
done that.
so it's there's been some good and bad with it.
So you got a contract in 2000? Is that correct? Or
Yeah, I was signed to Groove Nation Records. DJ Juan Lopez, out of Los Angeles, California, actually formerly from the Bay Area. That's where he kind of started making his music in the early mid 90s. He had a really, really big hit with Lena Santiago. It was a song called Feel So Good, Show Me Love. It was like top 10 Billboard or something. And for a guy who was completely independent, it was a really, really wild experience. And the music scene kind of snatched him up. He was one of the first artists signed by Universal music when Universal went from just films and branched out into music. They recently just started doing music again. But Juan was one of the first guys that they brought on. And there was a pretty big contract for him. In 2000, we'd been friends for about 3 or 4 years. And him trying to get back into the scene after in the 90s having this big club hit and then kind of fading into obscurity a little bit, he saw me as an artist out there in the streets in LA making a name for myself out of nowhere. Here it is. I come from Syracuse, New York, and literally within a couple of years and maybe even 6 months into bumping into him, I'm spinning at just about every club in LA. It was a
wow.
whirlwind. It was so quick. I don't even know, to be honest with you, Drew. I don't know how it happened. Like I couldn't give advice to someone else how to do it other than get out there in the streets and really love it and do it, live it,
Right.
breathe it,
Live
and
it.
do it. That's the only advice I could give somebody because that's what I was doing. And all of a sudden, I went from playing when the DJ went and got drinks and went to the bathroom to spinning at all the clubs, as the guy to being the guy who opened for the men and women who came in from all around the world to headlining my own nights. And, we did a Thursday night in Hollywood, literally 650 people to 6 o'clock in the morning. It peaked out at 1,000 people on a Thursday night, and they would stay there till the lights came on, and it was just me. So
That's
that was a
huge.
really intense. Yeah, Club Blue in Hollywood on Las Palmas. It was an intense experience.
So then,
Bruce Purdue is the owner. He's a great guy.
okay, so and I was a raver for like maybe 2 weeks, and it just it just wasn't for me. But I understand people like it. People like to really, they want to party until dawn or past dawn.
Yep.
So I noticed though that scene kind of really took a dive. So what were some of the situations that led to that, and what did you do?
Uh, the reality of it all is 9/11 came. Hollywood was when I moved out there in 1998. We got to realize this was 1998 when I moved out there. I knew one promoter, one sub promoter at a club, and Dennis Rogers at the Century Club in Century City in Los Angeles. It's gone now. But Mark Fleischman, the old owner of Studio 54, he used to own that club. He was the owner of the
Gotcha.
club at the time. He was the guy who bailed out the original owners of Studio 54 when they originally got arrested and they couldn't open a club. He's the one who bought Studio 54 and had them manage it underneath them. But anyway, from that, everything kind of blew up because the turn of the century was coming. So everybody was going out. It was really insane in LA at the time. And it was like the wave was building, with the turn of the century coming. Party like it's 1999, it'd been out for 20 years already. People were ready for it. And
Right.
when it came and hit, it was tremendous, the turn of the century. But 9/11 really stopped all of that. People were going out till 6 o'clock in the morning, almost every night of the week. You could go out on the weekend in LA on a Thursday night, actually, when my night started, was the weekend in LA, and not go home. There was something open nearly the entire weekend. And that's how insane, save for maybe a couple hours here or there. But literally, people would drive, and the scary part was just LA, and people would get out and party, and then go to the next club and party, and then go to the next club and party, and then come, Saturday late afternoon, Sunday morning, especially, was the greatest because people were walking around like the Walking Dead. But back to the point. It was that intense and crazy, but it was all doctors and lawyers, actors and actresses, as well as club people, drug addicts and drug dealers, riffraff and scum, all of that combined. But 9/11 really changed that situation. Just like that, everybody stopped and was like, what am I doing? And it was just the club freaks, the drug addicts, and the drug dealers. And that can't sustain nightclub living. Those people get in for free. So no one was paying to get in. Rooms that were, literally assholes to elbows, as they used to say. I used to call them human slip and slides because all the meatheads with their shirts off, all sweaty, trying to walk through the crowd. It was like a virtual vertical slip and slide.
Maybe a draw for some people.
Well, that was the thing too, and people have been doing it for so long and so hard. Like, as I said, it was a wave building that had literally broke with 9/11 and crashed and hit shore, and that was it. And I went from I had 8 gigs booked the week of 9/11. 8 gigs. It was one of the biggest weeks of my life. I was being flown out of state to Tucson, Arizona. First time ever playing out of state as a professional entertainer, and I was stoked. I was at the height of my game. And my fiance at the time, we ended up splitting up years later. But I looked at her. She was in finance, and I said to her, "I'll never forget this," because I look at her right as the planes hit, and we're sitting in bed together. I'm like, "You're in finance. You're about to go through some shit." And she looked me right in the face. I'll never forget this, too. She goes, "You're in entertainment. You'll go down first." And she was right. She was right. So
you heard it here first, folks, that the reason for 9/11 was to get rid of the rave scene.
It completely worked. Well, the rave scene in LA had been also going through a lot of changes too, because we had some really, really big parties, like 70,000 person events, also at the same time. I was big at the what would be called the underground club rave scene, where the raves in the clubs, the big raves outdoors were insane. But what had happened were people were starting to die.
Yes.
You can't get 70,000 people in a venue doing drugs and drinking and then shut down at 10 o'clock in the morning and not expect something. I went to a party in the Angeles Crest Forest. I believe it was 98 or 99, where 5 kids drove right off the mountain after the rave. They surmised they fell asleep at the wheel. So, I mean, things like that really started. Things were boiling in LA as this was happening too. So when 9/11 hit, again, it was just the right time for everybody to ask themselves why. And that's when Aoki and DJ AM blew up, because these kids were on the opposite side of the street than me. I'm doing the after hours. They were doing the 9 to 2. They were doing the regular rich people, the rich crowd, then everybody kind of flocked to that side of the street and was like, screw the drug addicts, screw the techno. And they started to listen to, the early DJ AM. Remember, he used to play like Celebration and, mixed with Jay-Z, mixed with a techno song. And that was, and that drew everybody from both sides. And then they also realized, I can go out and party till 2, and then I can go home and not be looked at as, as a weak person. And I partied till 2 a.m. I went home and the club closed. There was nowhere else to go anywhere.
And I might be able to function tomorrow.
I literally could talk to you for hours about the things that I did in LA that would blow people. I mean, I have a million stories. That place was insane for me. And that was a time, we talk about it now, I'm such a has-been. It was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I don't know. It took 20 years. At 20, it took my entire life to get there. And at 40, the last 20 went by like that. It was like, holy I mean, the difference between the first 20 and the last 20 were insane. You know, it scares the crap out of me because it makes me wonder, you got about 20 to 30, possibly 40 if you're lucky left. You know, and to think of it on that level and think how fast the last 20 years went by.
Yeah.
It's frightening. It's
well,
frightening.
so what are you gonna do?
Well, that's the thing.
You're
I'm
writing,
doing hot
spinning,
rod, buddy.
playing?
I buy and sell hot rods now. That's one of the things out here in New Hampshire. Like everybody has 3 fucking cars in their driveway covered in tarps. Everybody. It's insane. These things buy and sell cars that would sell for $5,000 to $10,000 anywhere else in America. I'm picking up for $2,000. I'm taking them. And I will send you pictures of the 3 cars I own right now. I own an 87 Hearse. I don't know if you knew about that. I bought that in Bellingham. I had that in Seattle right before I left.
Okay.
That's my daily driver. I bought a 27 Ford hot rod, Turtleback, an original Ford body hot rod.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
I'm gonna send you these pictures. You're gonna crap yourself. You're gonna be like, stay in New Hampshire. Be happy. You don't need big cities. You don't need children. These,
work on your hot rods.
You could show your kids to somebody and they go, "Oh, it's cute," but you know they're thinking, "Yeah, your kid's kind of ugly." No one's gonna say that about my hot rods.
Really.
No offense.
Well, my girls are pretty, so
yeah. I didn't mean you exactly. I mean, you know what I mean. How people shove their kids' pictures down your throats.
Right.
I do that with my cars.
Yeah.
So, and I own a 49 Plymouth Special Deluxe gasser. All jacked up on an S10 frame. It's sick. They're sick cars.
So you're collecting, you're selling?
I'm buying and selling. I started out with the 49 Plymouth. And I was just because my girlfriend's dad has a 48 Plymouth Special Deluxe business coupe. Hot rod, just tricked out. One of those $20,000, $30,000 cars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked online and unfortunately his wife, my girlfriend's mother, passed away. And so as a bonding thing, he went out and bought the car. I went out and bought the 49, hoping we could bond over the hot rods. I did so well on the car, I started to look around and to see what else was available. Winter had just broke, and I realized there were a million cars out there because every spring, every winter, people try to dump their project cars, their miscellaneous, their 3rd car in the driveway.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy to snatch it up, put some seats in it, do the interior, paint the thing jet black, and then pass it off to the next guy, double my money. So I bought a 55 Pontiac Chieftain. And I did just that. Within 3 months, I did the interior. I'll send you pictures of that too to blow your mind. First time ever doing door panels. And I'm not going to say that it's a gift or something. I don't know where it came from. And I just kind of tore off the stuff and put the new stuff on and put the chrome back, and it looked amazing. So someone ended up paying me double what I paid for the car for it within 3 months. So because of that, I took the money, and with that money, I found a 27 Ford down in Virginia that I robbed the guy for. I mean, I literally robbed him for it. He wanted 10 grand. He knocked it down to 8 grand. He put it on the paper. I saw it at 6 grand. I went over there and looked at it. I drove it home for $3,800. So I got it back here to New Hampshire. All the old guys in the car club are drooling over the car. I got appraisals for it, $12,000. One guy said minimum $10,000 a car's worth. Minimum.
Wow.
So yeah, ripped the interior out. Ripped out a bunch of different stuff. I'm changing the interior, putting a new steering column in it. Had an old Ford steering column POS from a truck. You know, the only thing original on it is the Ford 27 Ford body. It's currently got a 6-cylinder 4.7 liter Firebird, and not even a Ford, but a Firebird engine from the 80s.
Yeah.
So I got
Put whatever you want in it. Whatever.
But that's what a hot rod is. That's what a hot rod is. The hot rod is, you know, you get this, you get that, you throw this in there, you blah blah blah, and that's kind of what my cars are. They're, you know, they're this far away from being really really nice, and that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm trying to buy them low, fix them up, sell them middle, and then get that guy who goes, I'm gonna make that a show.
I'm gonna put the cherry on top.
Yeah, see, I'm just with cream and sprinkles.
I think we were talking about popcorn one time. Remember Popcorn? I don't know, he's an old moonshiner or something.
Oh yeah, Sky
And
Sutton's dad. Sky
yeah,
Sutton's dad. She's a
yes.
very, very good friend of mine from high school in Syracuse, New York. Nottingham Bulldogs. She, her and I were really, really good friends. And actually, what's funny is her friend Carrie Ventura was Jesse the Body Ventura's uncle.
Oh
So these
man.
two were in my high school together, which was so odd that we became friends. And then later on in life, I didn't know about Sky Sutton's dad until I started making moonshine in New York with my buddy. And then he told me, you know, Sky Sutton's dad is Popcorn Sutton. And I'm like, BS. So
Wow.
I looked her up on Facebook. I friended her on Facebook, and she was going through a lot of personal drama. Popcorn had just killed himself a couple years earlier. He was becoming really immortalized with My Last Bit of Liquor I'll Ever Make documentary that ended up making him kill himself. He got arrested because of that documentary, ended up killing himself because he didn't want to go back to prison, and turned him into a bit of an American icon and legend. Sky wasn't having that. He was an asshole to her, I guess.
Oh,
He was an alcoholic moonshiner.
Well, yeah. I mean,
spent most of his time in prison.
Even when you're watching the video, you're like, this guy. I'm glad he's not.
I put him on a pedestal too until Sky told me about him, and
Yeah.
you know, I respect her a little bit more than I respect a man I don't know.
Right. Sure.
You know, I look at him as an American outlaw, and that's pretty cool. As I said, I make my own moonshine. I mean, no, I don't. I use it to power my weed whacker. But
well, I bring him up because he had a pretty sweet rig. He was driving it was a model something, I don't know, but he
had a truck, didn't he?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the video. He was riding in it. That was all original. See, sadly, I'd love to be able to go that route, but those cars, they don't. Their value they're iffy. You know, they don't go really fast. Their engines are really, you know, some of the Model A, the original Model Ts and Model A's, they had like 2-3 horsepower, 4 horsepower. My Model T, it has something like 350 horsepower. So it's got tires on it. The tires on it are wider than me and you next to each other.
Yeah, and I just think of that. I think of that. Was it a little rat or something that's sitting up in the? You know what I mean? The sticker. The little rat sticker.
That's from the artist Fink, isn't it? The guy he was made famous by, I think it was Mad Magazine and a couple other things. He has a documentary on him too. You should check it out.
I will. I have to. I'm a fan of checking out these things. Beatstalkers. So is Beatstalkers?
Oh man, yeah, check out some of my videos. I did a bunch of videos. My YouTube page is Beatstalkers, where my E's are backwards. My E's are 3s. But if you go on there, you put Beatstalkers in YouTube, there's a bunch of videos, me doing some hip hop behind the back, tricks, some scratching and juggling and stuff. It's kind of funny because I'm a techno guy. But several years back, I made a couple records, and somebody told me I moved back home to take care of my mother, and somebody told me I wasn't a real musician. And I stopped, and I was like, I have like 5 records for sale right now online. I released on vinyl. And I was thinking to myself, how dare you say I'm not a musician? And I was like, what do you mean? I go, I'm a bit of a studio gangster, but I make music. They're like, well, you don't play an instrument. When you make a song, you play every instrument.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I kicked that around for a couple of years, and then I picked up the ukulele. I started playing ukulele, pick up the harmonica, started doing that. I think a lot of people really got to branch out, you know, and that's the whole thing. I think it'll make you happy in life if you can get out there and find things you like and develop hobbies. Even later in life, like people like you pick up a complex instrument like the ukulele, you know, in your early 40s, in your late 30s, and I was like, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I thought of it more like I wanted to express myself a little bit more musically, and I was kind of, you know, embarrassed by this guy saying because he played guitar, he thought he was a bigger musician than me. He had no records out. He had nothing produced. He was in a cover band. I shouldn't have been offended. But it's just one of those things where if you're not constantly testing yourself mentally and physically, you're gonna grow old. You're gonna stop getting being happy about things, and start getting a little bit more cynical and angry. And I saw myself really starting to go that route. So,
JT, how do people get a hold of you, man?
you can always get a hold of me on Facebook. My URL on Facebook is DJ Jonathan Thomas, all one word. On YouTube, on Beatstalkers, again with E's backwards. That's also on, you can look for my music on Beatport using Beatstalkers as well, but my label wouldn't put the E's backwards. They said that no one will find me and no one will remember that. So if you go to buy my music or at least to see me on the platforms, it's Beatstalkers with the E's regular. Instagram, I'm DJ_Jonathan_Thomas.
Cool. We'll put all that down in the description. John, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Hey, Drew, man, it's great to see you again, buddy.
Good to see
Enjoy,
you.
eat more potatoes. You're in the potato capital of the world.
Tonight.
All right, buddy, it's great to see you again.
All right. See you later. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you know when we put new videos out. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Brain Aqua. This has been AquaBrainTV. Remember to keep your head up and keep those knees bent.